Councilmember Ulrich.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And thank you for your testimony. I apologize. I was late to today's hearing. I was dealing with an issue in the district. I did get a chance to review the testimony that was submitted by the mayor's office and particularly Build It Back. I just have a few questions, and these seem to be really more recurring questions, I guess, around accountability. As you know, I represent a district in Queens that was severely impacted by the storm, not just the Rockaways, but Broad Channel, Hamilton Beach, Howard Beach, et cetera. I have, as you know, hundreds of constituents that are still not back in their homes. We are now approaching the 4th anniversary of Hurricane Sandy. I have spoken with those constituents. I have spoken with their contractors. I have spoken with folks at the buildings department, at the Build It Back agency, and I'm concerned about a few things in particular. Maybe Amy or someone can shed some light on it. The first issue I have is regarding capacity. I was told that the Build It Back program has hired a consultant, an outside firm, to help them review and submit plans for home elevations, and that on any given day there's literally only 1 to 3 individuals who can review these plans, submit these plans, correct these plans after they are submitted or prior to being submitted to a plan examiner at the buildings department, and that sometimes they have to wait 3 weeks, sometimes more if there are serious flaws in the plans, before they can start construction. Is that one of the issues that you are looking into regarding capacity and outside individuals?
Yeah, I don't know who you heard that from. We have multiple designers across the entire program that are working on plans daily and submitting them to Department of Buildings. Department of Buildings has and I don't know the exact number, but like 30 or 40 people dedicated specifically at Build It Back to review plans. We've co-located them in both the borough offices and now in the offices with RCMs. DOB reviews plans and turns them around in almost 48 hours. And we track all of this really quickly. In addition, as part of the Accelerate Build It Back program, we've allowed for a number of things to not impact plan review and permits, but go to certificate of occupancy. So I'd love to know exactly who you're hearing that from, and we can talk about
I can
specifics.
follow up. Are there any outside firms that you've contracted with, consulting firms in particular?
We have multiple firms.
And what do they do, and how much money do they cost?
So we have all of our design is done by outside firms, and we can send you the list of the contract amounts. It's all on the project tracker. So the Department of Design and Construction has the 3 CM firms. So in Queens, it's Tishman. They do a lot of their design through AECOM, which is a partner. I mean, Tishman is actually part of AECOM, but they've also hired other firms to assist them on the design work. Our agency, the Housing Recovery Office that manages some of the projects, including what are called the JOCS contract, has 2 design firms, IBTS and Perez, that work for them. And then each of the developers that work under HPD have designers that work in partnership with them. So those are all the design firms that are working on this program.
And how efficient is IBTS?
IBTS has had its struggles along the way, but they've actually completed all of the designs that they are doing for the JOCS program and have submitted them to the Department of Buildings. There's a few that are still in review at the Breezy Co-op.
How many in particular would you say? A ballpark. I'm not going to hold you to a specific number, but how many are in the queue?
Oh, to be
that have been submitted already to the Buildings Department?
Oh, I just put away a tech. I can actually send you that. We're tracking that on a daily basis. Yeah,
I mean, so this is my issue, as you know, and I know it's an issue for you too. And I don't hold you personally accountable. I hold the mayor accountable, quite frankly, because he's the person that's supposed to oversee Sandy recovery. He came into office. He said it was going to be a priority, and here we are 3.5 years later, and we've made some progress, but I think we can all agree we're nowhere where we would have liked to have been at this point, and a lot of this work should have been done a long time ago. First of all, I had another question. Where's Dan Zarilli today? Maybe that was addressed. I just wasn't here. Is he here?
Hi, I'm Douglas Lamb, actually Dan's chief of staff. Dan and his wife welcomed their 3rd child about 2.5 weeks ago, and so he'll be on leave through next week.
Okay.
That's why he couldn't join us today, unfortunately.
Very
Sends his
good.
regrets.
All right. But, the problem is I think there are a lot of moving parts. I want to ask another question. How often does Dan Zarilli and Amy Peterson meet with the mayor directly, or who do they report to?
So I report directly to Alicia Glenn. I'm in constant contact with the mayor, actually, and we met with him last week, and he's meeting with all of the contractors to go over, and all of the city agencies to focus on Build It Back. Prior to the beginning of this year, I think everyone's aware, I reported to Tony Shores.
But you're meeting with the mayor on a regular basis, a fairly regular basis? Is it once a month? Is there a meeting? Is he calling in the buildings department, the Office of Housing Recovery? I mean, is there like a regularly scheduled meeting with the mayor or the deputy mayor? I'm getting to the heart of accountability. It's not a trap question. I'm just trying to figure out like the level of interest the mayor actually has in Sandy recovery issues.
Yeah, so since both Bill Goldstein, Dan Zarilli kind of was put into the position he had, and I was hired, we've met weekly with City Hall with a deputy mayor, including the first deputy mayor, on Sandy progress. It's a huge priority of the mayor.
And without compromising anybody's integrity or confidentiality, at these meetings, when you encounter issues with the buildings department, for instance, that you have these 5 permits that are being held up in the program, and your plan examiner and the people that worked on the design said they're fine, and we're just waiting for the okay. Is there any sense of urgency on the part of the administration? Do they pick up the phone and call the buildings department and say, get these permits approved, get these things moving? Is there any sort of coordination between the agencies? Because obviously you don't have power over the buildings department. If you did, a lot of these things would have been done already. But
Yes,
what is the administration doing to be helpful here?
So any time that we need a push at a different agency, be it a city agency or, we work closely with DEC, the state agencies, that's all pushed through City Hall. One of the things that really turned around recently due to a meeting that City Hall held was working with each of the utility companies. So both city agencies and outside companies and agencies have been given the message that this is a priority. This is a priority for the mayor. A year ago in the summer, the mayor and Tony Shores brought all of the agency commissioners together, and the result of that was Accelerate Build It Back. We are doing the same thing this summer because we obviously have to get a lot of projects through construction. It's very clear to me that each of the agencies and all of the commissioners get the message from the mayor and City Hall that this is a top priority.
Well, I'm glad that you have that impression, because I certainly don't. I had a meeting with Bill de Blasio personally with 2 of my colleagues about a year and a half ago here at City Hall, and I brought up the street raising project in Broad Channel, and I'm glad you raised the utility issues. And I said, wow, we're doing the street raising project. It's a great idea. We're totally going to excavate from property line to property line, and we're going to make it more resilient. Why don't we bury the utilities? And he says, that's a great idea, because we're never really going to have the opportunity again to dig, 6 or 9 feet into the ground and actually lay down the infrastructure. And then Con Ed was sort of cooperative, but really not all that on board, and National Grid came, and we had meetings in my office, and then we brought this to Dan Zarilli's attention, and I'm sorry he's not here to address this personally, but then they said that it would require some cost to each individual homeowner to hook it up, and they wouldn't be able to do it in phase 1, they could do it in phase 3, but we blew that deadline already because that would require additional funding, and it's not clear if even the people who are in the Build It Back program would be able to cover those costs. It just seemed like, even though when I bring this to the attention of the mayor himself, and even if at the moment he agrees that it might be a good idea and it makes sense and that we should be doing more of it, that things get lost through the cracks. Somebody's either asleep at the switch or really just not doing a very good job of following up on these things, and it doesn't happen. It doesn't get done. And guess what? They're going back to overhead wires. They're in a hurricane zone. The next time we have high winds, there's going to be power outages there. And we missed an opportunity. We blew it. And we have billions and millions of dollars from Washington that we got in CDBG funding to do resiliency type projects just like this, to coordinate at just the right time when we just happen to be doing things anyway. And we come up with a million reasons why we can't do things. And I just get very frustrated, whether it's in Breezy Point with Build It Back, whether it's in Broad Channel with street raising, whether it's the boardwalk and the Parks Department. I don't get the impression that the administration is on top of recovery issues, Sandy-related issues, because in my district, the most impacted district by Hurricane Sandy in Queens County, we don't have a boardwalk fully constructed. We're behind schedule. Hundreds of people are still not back in their homes. Broad Channel is not getting underground utilities. And the mayor sends out all these press releases about how wonderful a job we're doing. And the people in my district just don't see it. And with all due respect, I don't go to, Amy, I hope you don't take this as a slight, I don't go to the key ceremonies because I think that I find them offensive, quite frankly, because for every one that we're celebrating, there are many, many others that are nowhere near moving back into their homes. And I can't face those constituents and honestly say, like the city has done a very good job of getting you back into your home, because they've told me the horror stories. They told me how the city told them they had to move out, by the way, that construction was going to start, and they've been out of their house for 3 months, and construction still hasn't started yet. And nobody's being held accountable. And if this was any other administration, heads would roll. And in this administration, everybody keeps their job, and nobody's accountable. There's no benchmarks. With all due respect, everybody that's here today is getting a paycheck today or next week, regardless if you help one person, 100 persons, or no persons. And that is the problem with this administration, is there is no accountability on how we spend billions of dollars helping people who were impacted by Hurricane Sandy. And, you know, Dan Zarilli and I have had a hot and cold relationship. There have been times I called him. He never even called me back. Today he's not even here. Thanks for nothing. Build it back. My former chief of staff runs it in Queens County. You would think I have a hook. I have people in there that could help me move things along. That is not even the case. And it's going to be the 4th anniversary of Hurricane Sandy, and we still haven't made the progress that should have happened, quite frankly, 2 years ago when we were promised. So I love when people say, I know how you feel, I appreciate how you feel. It's not a therapy session. I don't need you to know how I feel and appreciate how I feel. I just want you to do a better job, because whatever you're doing now, it's not working. And if I had to grade your performance, your agencies, I'll give you an F. And that's being generous. So, you know, I had questions, but I knew I really wasn't going to get answers. Nobody's accountable. The city's on autopilot. Hundreds of my constituents aren't home. There's no boardwalk. I have schools with temporary boilers too, just like there are NYCHA facilities. You guys are sitting on billions of dollars. Build It Back really is a jobs program, in my opinion. You got hundreds of people working there. I don't know what they do all day because it's just things aren't moving. So I'm not optimistic, but you know what? I'm going to speak out. I'm going to be a voice for my constituents. I'm going to let them know that I'm just not here at City Hall sitting on my hands letting you guys feed me all the wonderful things that you think you're doing. You haven't done a good job. You failed. I can't pat you on the back. I can't say thank you. And you could take that however you want to take it. You don't even have to respond to it. The next hearing, unless I see considerable change and progress being made, you're going to hear the same speech. And there's no press here. This is not for the press release. It's not for the cameras. This is just me telling you, you're not doing a good job. You got to do better. And you got to help the people that I represent. They're crying, they're broke, they're upset. We have to do better by them. Please, I'm pleading with you. Thank you.
Now, go ahead.
I would just say that I think you said we should have been done 2 years ago. 2 years ago is exactly when I started. We've made considerable progress, and accountability has been what it's all about. We've set goals since the first day we've been here, and we've met each of those goals. There were no starts. There were like 3 checks when I started here. Over 75% of the homeowners have seen construction start or seen a check. And we continue to set goals. The mayor set a very aggressive goal for the end of this year to get this program done. We've brought on tremendous resources to get this done. No one will say that this is easy, but to say that we're not accountable and we do not respond and work closely with each of these constituents to move them home is, we do that.
Let me follow up. If you do not meet the goal that the mayor set, that construction will be completed by the end of this year, who's going to lose their job? Who's accountable when you guys blow that deadline?
So I think you and everyone in Queens understands that that's a very aggressive goal. We are working really hard to meet that goal.
But when you don't meet that goal, because I don't think you're going to meet that goal, I would love for you to meet that goal. If you meet that goal, I'll be at that press conference. I will praise you. I'll praise the mayor. I will say, job well done. But when it doesn't happen, who is accountable? Who do I blame? What do I tell my constituents?
I think, Councilmember Ulrich, you know that I am accountable to build it back. And I will meet with any of your constituents that you need me to meet with to talk about this program.
I would like to make a comment, if I may. I thank you for your comment. And I guess I just wanted to say that, at OMB, we have secured all of this money through working with our federal partners, with our agencies on all of this damaged infrastructure and these HUD programs. And we've really done an unprecedented job. And I know that from the point of view of, has the work happened in the home at this point in time, or has the work happened at the school, or has the work started, the large permanent work started at the NYC development yet? That's the question that you're concerned with. But to the front end of this process is securing federal funding to do all of that work, and we've done a great job. We've secured over $9 billion of FEMA funding. We have secured, we have written over 700 FEMA grants, virtually all of our FEMA grants, in 3 years from the storm, while other Gulf state jurisdictions are still writing first version FEMA grants on their damages from Hurricane Katrina, which is over 10 years ago. So, if the first...
Katrina is apples and oranges. Please don't ever bring that up in a hearing again. Hurricane Katrina and Hurricane Sandy and the response and the funding mechanism and the geography and the intensity of the storm are apples and oranges. They are not similar. That is not a good comparison to make. Well, with all due respect, I don't know if you're from a Sandy impacted area. They are apples and oranges. And I think that's a good cop-out for the administration to say, oh, look, Bush did a terrible job with Katrina, and look how long it took in Louisiana, and New York City's doing such a wonderful job. Apples and oranges, please, by all means, please, let's just keep to the merits of what we're talking about. Katrina and Sandy are not similar, other than the fact that they are severe weather events.
Yes, and they're the two large disasters in this country caused by severe weather events in the last 15 years. So no disaster from one to the other is exactly the same. However, my point is we've done a very good job securing federal funding, which is the beginning of the process with these federal funding streams of having the funds to do the work and move things forward.
I'm glad you brought, and I'm glad OMB
Councilman, did you have a question?
Yeah, I have a question. Yeah, OMB, I have a funding question. Speaking about federal funding, we got, I want to say, $100 million approved at the end of the Bloomberg administration of CDBG funding to use for the Game Changer grant competition. I love to bring this question up because I've never really gotten a full answer. I even asked the mayor personally. He couldn't come up with the right answer. We were promised in Rockaway, in Coney Island, in Staten Island, to assist small businesses and areas, small business corridors that were impacted by the storm. They were awarded grants. They had a competition. They hired architects and lobbyists and engineers, and they had all these designs to tear down old buildings and build new mixed-use buildings, and we were going to create jobs, and the city was going to subsidize part of this. And I've heard 3 different excuses as to where that money went. There was $96 million. There's a press release on nyc.gov that you can get from EDC with quotes from the head of EDC at the time, Mayor Bloomberg, Cass Holloway, everybody else. Mayor de Blasio comes into office. Where did the money go? That's what I want to know. What happened to that money that was promised to my community, to Brooklyn, to Staten Island, for the CDBG funding and the Game Changer grant competition? Where is that money? What was it used for? Where's the $96 million?
Well, the funding is still there. It has been reprogrammed into other more direct impact programs.
Reprogrammed, what does that mean? Give me the layman's terms. I don't work for OMB.
Well, when you publish an action plan approved by HUD, you define programs that are HUD-eligible programs to spend the money on. When you need to make a change from one program to another greater than $1 million, it gets moved from one program to another.
Okay,
this
so it
particular
got taken
program,
from-
can I answer your question?
Yeah.
This particular program, the Game Changer program that was identified and published in the prior administration, a lot of the communities who saw the proposals for the Game Changer competition that were sort of winners, they didn't particularly like the game and the way it was changing to. So the program was pulled back and we reallocated the money to more direct impact programs, which are the programs that we currently have in the action plan, and that's what happened to that program.
Okay, so the Game Changer grant money was taken away and used to pay for, build it back, I don't know, I mean, resiliency projects, it was expense money, I'm assuming, like it was?
Yeah, this is all expense.
It's all expense money. So in other words, Beach 116th Street in Rockaway is not getting $16 million of city investment like we were promised in a press release by the previous administration with the federal money, because you're now using that money to fill the gaps for other programs that aren't working
I can give you
and that we haven't seen.
I can give you the detail of where the money went to.
I would love that.
Okay, I'd be happy to do that.
And you can take a week, 2 weeks. I mean, I've waited so long. At this point, it really doesn't make a difference.
Well,
the reason is because when I go to community meetings and I go to the community board in Rockaway, they don't get to talk to you. They don't get to talk to the mayor. They're asking me questions, like they do in Coney Island, like they do in other parts of the city. And they say, what happened to that Game Changer grant money that we were promised? The city said they were going to revitalize our commercial corridors. They got the money approved from the federal government. We're sitting on it. What happened to the money? How come nobody sent out a press release? Where's the transparency?
I'll be happy to provide that information.
I don't see how you promise a community millions of dollars and then repurpose it, use it for something else, and don't tell anybody.
It was published, the repurposing of it was published in an action plan that had community hearings, that received public comments, and was approved by HUD.
I find that very, very hard to believe. But thank you for that explanation. Thank you. Mr. Chairman, thank you.